When I was 14 years old, I was at my local Methodist church. I'd been a member for about a year, and my minister kept saying, I think you should be a Methodist minister. And I just thought, well, you know what? He has nothing better to say. You know, doctors want to get doctors, nurses want to get nurses, teachers want to get teachers, ministers want to get ministers. And I thought, I'm not interested in that job. It's just for old people, old white people who are men. And then one day he came to me and said, do you want to learn more about God? Well, I always wanted to know more about God. I was at church more than I was at home. I just loved everything about church. And so I said yes. And he gave me a note to preach, which is not quite what I had in mind. But then one day I heard a sermon. And it was a sermon that talked about never say to God, I can't or I won't, but say to God, I'll try. So I thought, am I saying to God I can't or won't about ordination when I should actually just say to God, I'll try? I said to God, you know, I had my last local preacher's exam to take. We used to do 4 exams then. And I said, if I get a C and above, I'll candidate, I'll go for it. And if I don't, I won't have to worry about it. And it was New Testament, and my Bible knowledge was always a little bit sketchy. So I thought, you know, it's going to be a safe one here. And I got a B. I couldn't believe it. A C, I could have said it was a mistake. You couldn't fight against it. So I candidated. I don't see myself as minister material. I have never done. And when I spoke to my best friend, who's a Muslim, at the time about, you know, oh, well, you know, I'm doing more in the church and actually I might be working full time for the church. She just said, we always knew you were going to do that. My family just thought it was just the church had made the biggest mistake. My sister said, she's just so noisy. How can somebody like that be a minister? My mother said, but you can't play the piano. How can you be a minister? When my minister came to me and said to me, you know, I think you should be a Methodist minister, I suppose it was the first real moment of affirmation that I'd ever had in my family. But actually, ordination itself was a very profound effect on me. I'd gone to college for 3 years, and then my husband and I both came out and we job shared, and we were in a circuit where we shared 3 churches. It was a really bruising time. People didn't want me because I was black, and they said that. And they also didn't really want me to be their minister because I was a woman. And in fact, someone proudly came up to me after I'd been there for a few weeks and said, we know that women shouldn't be ministers because we've had Bible studies about it, and we know that the Bible tells us that women should keep quiet. And I remember going for my final interview for ordination with the church, and all I did was sit with my superintendent and cry. And all the other committee just said, we are so sorry, Sonia. We are so sorry. I think as time has gone on, and I've been in this role now for over 30 years, I think people are less surprised, my family are less surprised. They just think it makes sense of all the bits of me that they could never make sense of. The bit of me, I think, from when I was small, that hated injustice. I've always hated injustice, and I've always been passionate about how does God see this injustice, and what does God want me to do and say about this injustice. It's important for me to bring all of Sonia into this role. None of us should be like a generic minister. I think we should always be of ourselves. I've not been around for 50 years of ordination, but for all those women who gave it all they could in those early years, it must have been so difficult. And because they kept on in that pathway, it made the pathway wider for the rest of us to follow. I don't think there's an experience in ministry which hasn't helped me to grow. Even that very first one, in the first 2 years of ministry, I am who I am because of that experience. If someone had asked me the question, why are you going for ordination? I wouldn't have had an answer. But at the ordination service, when they ask that question, do you think they are worthy? And the congregation responds, they are worthy. I heard God saying to me, you are worthy, Sonia, not because a church says you are worthy, but because I have said you are worthy, and because this Methodist church has confirmed that in all that they have seen and done. I still feel God's call on my life. I still feel God saying to me, come, Sonia, let's play. I am still here because I still hear God's call, loud and clear.